Nine Brides and Granny Height, Chapter 11. The Needles Stay. Mrs. Height, when were you a bride? Land of Beulah, Granny had to count back. 66, no, 68 years ago. Esther Pulaski, the beautiful slender girl with the white skin, dark eyes, and finely chiseled nose and cheeks, studied the room inch by inch, though she had seen it often. Granny observed as Esther scanned the honest hearth, the sturdy table, the chinked walls. The young girl's true love, Kyle Toller, wanted to make a house for her out of milled boards that floated down Big Piney and could be hauled into the hollow on a slide. It was to be a house, Kyle had promised, that would lash right out with glass windows and curtains in the front room and an iron stove and a hand pump in the kitchen. But Esther suddenly said, as if her heart had tightened, Mrs. Height, do you mind if Kyle and I build our house just like this? Land of Dan, you won't have to do that, honey. Things are easier now. A pump is all right, and a stove. But I'd like the rest of the house to be this sound and lasting. Granny eyes misted. She regarded this girl whose needlework was as fine on the plainest crazy quilt as any embroidery, whose piecing, blocking, and felling down made a counterpane of every coverlet she handled. Not long ago, old Amos Toller had given his grandson Kyle a partnership in the store. Since then, Esther had appeared regularly behind the counter, measuring yardage or sitting on the high stool posting figures. Anybody who walked in could see that amid the dry goods, canned goods, plow chains, and harness leather, Kyle and Esther were very much in love. For many a day, the hollow would go on having its mountain store. Granny's eyes moved to the other heads that were bent over the quilting frame, needles jabbing through triangles dark pink, light pink, and white in a birds-in-the-air pattern that stretched drum-tight and egg-smooth. All the current romance in the hollow, as far as she had been able to find it, was bunched around that square frame. There was Ellie Beckett Lee. Ellie and her John had been blown together as leaves before a rain. There was Corey who could walk now. She'd walk the rest of her days beside Katie Peeler. There was Levice Vasey, soon to claim and be claimed by Clinch Tidney. Levice, whose hotly beating heart had gone almost dead when a cold, four-fingered hand, not Clinch's, had touched it. There was Kedron Hardy, about to become wife to Hub Trevitt and close an ancient bloody wound on Peckerwood Mountain forever. A grapple in the dark and 2 doses of Aurelia's Mender had managed that. There was Travis Swisher, who had been swept up into Lee McLeese's future, keeping on a tide of dulcimer music, though a blow-up of a still had helped. There was Cynthia Green Trevitt, who had climbed a mountain out of a very dark valley and found sun on top. There was Silver Moon Annabelle, but since her Lazarus was only 17 and aimed to become a doctor, she mustn't be counted as a bride for a bit of time. But there was Laurel Tidney. 2 young wives and several betrothed girls counted Granny. For Laurel Tidney, though she had told her story, was betrothed too. 7 girls, all waiting for the circuit-riding minister. Yet, Granny was a bit uncomfortable somehow about Laurel, for Laurel herself didn't seem entirely happy. What day now, wondered Granny, would be the much-awaited Elder Gatland appear? Elder Martin, when he rode the circuit, had been as dependable as bluebells in May. Now every girl had her marriage quilt, and still no preacher. Tell us, Mrs. Height, about the building of this house. Esther again. Esther's large dark eyes were roaming every knot in its timbers. Was it all done and ready when you were married? Land of Goshen, no. First summer after the preacher said the words, we lived in a half-house. Joel found 2 trees about 8 foot apart. He lashed a pole between them, head high. We laid saplings up against it and walled in the ends with more brush. We cooked at the front, but already Joel had belted the great trees to make a deadening, that's a clearing, and put in his first crop. As soon as the corn was laid by, we built this house. She fetched cake and raspberry wine. Putting up a house was fun in those days, same as it was when the neighbors put up the one for you Pulatskis, Esther. Everybody pitched in, and there were lots of trees. They got out the good hardwood logs with chopping axes and notched each one. Joel was the corner man when it came to the raising. When the walls were up and held tight with locust splinters, then laid with whipsawed oak roof, Joel made the hinges for the door, and he made our bed too, and corded it. Girls, there's nothing can beat cords with a ticking full of husks on top, and a ticking full of goose feathers on top of that, and hand-wove sheets on those goose feathers, and summer or winter coverlids on top of the sheets. Of course, you must also have a man, but you're seeing to that. She twinkled as she looked around her pleasant old cabin. Though it was smoked up a bit from pine knots, grease lamps, and cooking fires, she sighed for the days when she had no stove and her knees were limber. Give me a bed of coals under a good chimney, a cooking rack, and a few pot vessels and pot hooks. I'll turn you out a meal. Joel said I did right well. The years fell away, and Mattie was with her Joel again. Just the two, before the hearth fire that Joel's hand had newly lit. By littles we fixed the place up. Joel built a fence with palings to keep the rabbits and hens out, and I planted a few flowers and herbs. They're growing yet. Joel made the eating table good and long. We're going to have that many children, I asked. For a starter, he said. He made the dresser yonder in this chair. Many's the small one I've rocked in this chair, though it has no rockers. I've about rocked its hind legs down to stumps. A sight of babies came to the holler in this house. They're all scattered now and married, turned into grandparents. Seems like half the house I poke my head into, Tidney or Vasey or Trevitt or Beckett's or Lees or McLees. There's a height battling wash or peeling taters. If Joel was to come back and look about, he'd say we scattered a right smart seed. One of the girls happened to glance at the window. Corey, somebody's coming. Somebody was. Corey flew to meet him. After attending to his greeting, all hearts ready for a jump? Katie Peeler asked those inside. I met a man today, coming over the notch of the mountain. I had the better horse, but he was pushing right along, and I gave him all the names I happened to think of. Girls, Brother Jay Gatlin, the circuit rider, will be here tomorrow. The girls screamed, all but Ellie, Cynthia, and Laurel. Needles stopped where they were. There was a grabbing of scrap bags. The making of marriage quilts, Granny perceived, was over for this season. The time for using them had come. Cheerily, as she saw the girls off, come again, she urged, and we'll make baby clothes. There's been a sight of that done here, too. Laurel and Silver Moon remained at the quilting frame, which was odd. Laurel Tidney, of all the girls, was the only one who already had a baker's dozen of quilts of her own. And Silver Moon Annabelle wouldn't need any for some years. I want to get this one done for Cynthia Trevitt, said Laurel. The first one we made for her is almost the only one she has. I'll work on it too, said Silver Moon Annabelle. I have lots of time. Somewhere, down from the notch the preacher was riding, and Granny's heart, with all its wonderful understanding, suddenly went out to him.